la 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 la. Leonie doesn't refuse to be categorized a podcast. Hello. I'm Frank Walker from Walker National Trust. Just kidding. That is a Australian radio commercial that sometimes just gets totally stuck in my head. Hands up. Who else also gets that stuck in their head? I am off on, you guessed it, School Run. What a surprise. Whoa. Where else does Leonie do her podcasting these days? I have just returned from a few days in Sydney. Oh my God, look at me go. I left the house. I went to a conference that required me to go on a plane to another city, and I spoke on the stage, and I met a lot of people, and it was all very exciting. I hadn't been on a plane for like 5 years, so that was all felt like a foreign land really to go back. And then fascinating because I live in southeast Queensland, which to me, I've lived in much more regional and remote areas and very small towns and things like that, and so I feel like I'm quite cosmopolitan where I am, and so I wasn't expecting to have any city culture shock, but boy did I. Holy smokes, did I felt like a hillbilly coming out of the fucking hills for that one. Just the amount of traffic, and I know that everyone must talk about the Sydney traffic, and every Sydney sider out there must be like, yeah, we get it, there's fucking cars, move on with your life. But I could not get on with it. And the fact that to walk to the venue I had to go along these kind of convoluted little pathway, and it meant that I had to go over the cars and under the cars and around the cars, and it meant at one point there was cars underneath me and then cars above me on a bridge, and not just one lane, but 4 lanes, 6 lanes. What the fuck, guys? Never seen such things in my life. So that was all a bit overwhelming and overstimulating, but I did it. I'm proud of me for that. My bestie, Deb Namara from Canberra, drove down to pick me up. I'm very grateful that she drove just to come and spend time with me. So I spent time with her the first afternoon just to get settled in, and then she slept with me for a night. We bunked together and we had a slumber party, and it was very cute. And then I went to conference, and I thought I would be there taking notes studiously like I do usually at conferences, but I just found I was having too much of a hard time on the sensory front to do that. So I didn't last very long, and I got very overstimulated and overwhelmed. So I went down by Darling Harbour and was really overstimulated and had a cry. So I was like, all right, we need to get some nature. We need some nature in order to regulate. And because I could hear the traffic everywhere and see the traffic, and also even my hotel room was right over the top of 4 lanes, an intersection, 4 lanes going both ways, and then I could see this massive, anyway, it was just a lot of traffic, and I was very overstimulated. I could not cope. So I ended up having just a look on the map, and decided to walk down to the Chinese Friendship Gardens, and I'm so glad I did. Gosh, it was so beautiful, and I just felt instantly relaxed being in there. It was just this little sanctuary. These closed-in walls, and everything else disappeared, and I just loved looking at the trees and all the plants, and I had a beautiful lake, and I came across this water dragon, and I was like, oh, this is so beautiful, make friends with the water dragon. And then there was these beautiful koi fish in the pond. They were absolutely massive. I've never seen them so large before, and the most incredible colors, really all different colors, and some of them had all these splashes of colors over their back, like just like you see in a Japanese painting. Like, oh my God, I just couldn't even cope with how gorgeous it was. And then there was ducks, and like at a certain point, the water dragon jumped into the water and swam with the carp. I've never seen such a thing. I've never seen such a thing in my life. It was incredible. And then the duckies were like floating over the carp, and then sometimes the duckies would lean down and gently nibble on the carp. I don't know, maybe if they'd just been annoyed by the carp or something. It was really funny. I just had the most rapturous time there, and I thought, all right, in order to survive in the city, we're just going to need to do this. We'll just need to look for beauty, try and find pockets of nature, and we'll also like make sure that we look for beauty by documenting it. And so I have an app on my phone called Hipstamatic. I have had it on there for years and years and years, and they have this certain one like camera option that you can choose in there, and it's called random, and you have no freaking clue what your picture is going to turn out like. They like have like hundreds of different filters and overlays and frames and all that kind of stuff, and it's like a random roll of the dice to see what they decide to overlay on it, and you can't change it afterwards. And it actually just really appeals to me because I don't want to overthink it. I just want to see what little miracles and surprises come. So I was just on my happy little Hipstamatic app taking these old school kind of photos, and some of them are just ridiculous. They like takes like a normal photo, but it like turns it into a CD, an actual CD, the shape of a CD, and then it's got happy holidays written on it, even though it's August. We're August? Yeah, we're August. Good on us. So it totally wrecks some pictures, and then it's just like perfect on others. So it was so lovely to do that. And then I decided just to keep on walking, and I ended up walking down through Chinatown, and that was incredible. And I've been there like maybe 17-ish years ago on a merry adventure, and it was just so lovely to be there again. It was just riveting. So I just kept walking and walking. I found this Japanese station shop. It was incredible. And oh, bless. I loved that little adventure. And then that afternoon I had my speaking presentation, and that went really well. I'm so thrilled with it, getting to talk at Ausmumpreneur and do a talk for it. And before I went on stage, I just went into the bathrooms and gave a little prayer and asked that I be of service, and that I bring whatever qualities people needed to hear at that time, whether it was like joy or expansion or freedom or abundance, whatever it is they needed. I just hoped and prayed that I could be that. And it felt like I was while on stage. Like the audience was so connected and engaged, and they laughed and I laughed, and it was just this beautiful, loving back and forward. I adored it. I really do adore being on stage. And then I got to meet some beautiful humans afterwards, and that was really big and really touching for me. And I'm not sure how to talk about this in a way that's humble, and so I won't bother trying. I'm just going to say it as it is. I'm not actually known very much for my humility anyway, so that's fine. Anyway, so after I spoke, there was a couple of people, there was a bunch of people that came up to me, and there was just a couple that they'd never met me before. They'd just talked to my speech, like just heard me during that, and both of them were crying, and both of them just felt so deeply seen and felt and connected by being around me and knowing that they weren't alone in the world, because they could see themselves in me. They were neurodivergent and related to so many parts of my story, and they hadn't found a place where they could feel really understood in that way. And they were just so beautiful, such beautiful humans, and I just loved being with them in that moment and to honor them and witness them and just love them as much as I could. And that was really touching. And for me, it was really helpful because I have been, just trying to work out what my next purpose is, because I feel like in some ways I fulfilled a purpose that I had, and now I'm kind of in the waiting room, God's waiting room, of what's next. And I haven't been even really sure of whether I wanted to grow my audience at all. I've been a little bit reticent to do that, and I guess as well, having gone through different levels of fame, there's some parts that are divine, and there are some parts that make me feel deeply uncomfortable with that. And so I know the downsides of fame already, and so I don't want to extend my audience for fame purposes. But meeting those two beautiful humans made me realize, maybe there's some others out there who might be feeling alone at the moment, or like they don't feel represented. They can't see a reflection of themselves in any kind of, sort of more public figures or business teachers or whatever around them, and that it's enormously healing just for them to just even know that I'm out in the world doing what I do. So I'm sitting with that and seeing what needs to happen next, or maybe that'll just come in time. But it was maybe it's just trying to keep focused on the people who may not have found me yet and still might need me. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. Speeching went well, and then I also had a lovely time the next day doing some more wandering. Again, wanted to go to conference, again couldn't manage the overstimulating, and I was even overstimulated in my hotel room because it was quite loud, and I could hear the intersection underneath me and the traffic and the beeping. So I was like, right, okay, the best thing I can really do is just is to walk and try and find beauty. And I did, and I'm very grateful for every little miracle moment. I came out of the bottom of a train station, and right there was this huge flock of pigeons. I've never seen so many pigeons in one spot before, and they were all different colours, and one was even just kind of this beautiful rusty orange colour. And I just stood there really quietly, just marveling at them. And I was so quiet that they all kind of stayed around me. And I just was marveling at them. And they started coming up to my feet. And eventually I moved my arms just to pick up, put my phone up towards my face, and they caught shock at that, and they took off in this massive flock, and just the hundreds and hundreds of wings all beating rapidly at the same time. And it was it was an enormous sound, but also just the actual the force of the wind. It was like standing under a helicopter. It was just absolutely marvelous. And then I went up onto I went just watching a little kid on the road. Okay, that's all right. You know, it's like when you see other kids go for a wander and you're like, oh, Mummy Judy on. Got to help another mama out if her kid's on the run near a road. But real good. Okay, I was talking about something very important. Oh, yeah. And then I went up onto the street. I had no idea where I was. And I was in front of, I think, the town hall and this beautiful old building. And there was a man playing violin on the street. And right above there was this red balloon that somebody had just let go of, and it was soaring up into the sky. And then the town bells started tolling, and it was just like this rapturous moment of all these little bits of beauty interlocking together, like all these tiny bits of everyday magic. And no, I wasn't on drugs. This is just the joy of an autistic experience where, sure, I find it very difficult to stay in a conference room because it's a little bit too much information. But then when I'm in situations where I can try and look for beauty, I can see all of these things in great detail, and it is just so rapturous and so divine and beautiful, and it fills me with awe. And side note, I'm just sick of people asking me if I'm high. I've been asked that all my life. People always say, like, what are you on? I'm on autism, okay? I'm on fucking autism. That's what I'm on. I'm grateful for it, but it's not a drug. It's my brain. Oh, bless. Then I just felt like I was on this adventure to work out where I should be next. And it's just like looking for clues of like, oh, where should I be next? What should I be doing next? And I knew that I wanted to get a smoothie because I was desperate for some kind of breakfast. And I just wanted to eat my usual breakfast smoothie that I have. So I set about looking for that. And I knew I needed some noise cancelling headphones to try and reduce the traffic sound for me, for sensory stuff, because I hadn't brought any with me. I always think I'm not going to need them, but spoiler alert, I always do. So I was just kind of trying to follow the signs of where I should go, and then I saw this huge poster of Astro Boy, and I adore Astro Boy, and I was like, oh, I must be in the right place. And I looked around, and right there was a Boost Juice with exactly the smoothie that I wanted, and right next to it was a JB Hi-Fi, so I could go get some headphones. And I was like, oh, thank you, Astro Boy, thank you. And then Astro Boy led me to Australia's largest bookstore, and it is incredible. It was incredible, and it had a massive manga section, and gosh, I could have just spent days and days there. But I didn't. I decided, I was going to meet somebody, Sally Guthrie, and so I wandered around and then eventually started walking towards the rocks, because there's the Ken Doan gallery there, and Ken Doan is this iconic Australian artist, and if you were like a child of the 80s and 90s, like his artwork was ubiquitous with everything. Like it was high fashion that everybody wore. it was Australia, and I have so much respect for him as an artist, especially since he was like a late bloomer. Like he didn't have his first art exhibition till he was 40, and he has created this really long-term, incredible creative career by following his delight. And I love that his wife and his 2 adult children work in his business as well. So I was thrilled to get to go to his gallery and just be around all the old architecture as well. Keeping in mind that like old architecture in Australia only gets to 200 and whatever years old. But anything that's not built in the last 40 years, I'm like, oh, vintage, so exciting. So I just loved all the old stone buildings. So I met Sal there, and then we ended up walking. We walked all along the wharf, and then we walked to Sydney Botanic Gardens. We got some Italian, and then Sal showed me how to catch a ferry back to Darling Harbour, and it was so great catching a ferry. I fucking love being on a boat, and it was just ecstatic. I felt like a golden retriever on that boat with all of the wind spray, and then you look up and you just see all of these beautiful things one after the other, these very iconic, like Sydney Harbour Bridge, and then you see Sydney Opera House, and then like the boat pulled up, and I had no idea where I was, and I looked up and there was Luna Park, the Luna Park face right in front of me. I never even knew. Gosh, it was just divine. Absolutely divine. And then that night was the gala awards evening, and I was up for I was a finalist for 5 categories, which is, I just feel so honoured for. I got to hang out with Natalie Alamo and Karen Parkinson, and had a rip-roaring time. I won 4 gold trophies, which I can barely speak about it. I just feel, what? I managed to get up on stage and thank everyone and tell them that I suck at elevator pitches, and so I was just gonna, like, if they wanted to know what I did, I was the leading retailer of wide girth dildos in Australia. Just because it made me laugh, and I still don't know if I told anyone what I actually did, but I don't care. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. At some point in the evening, I got very overstimulated, so I went and laid down on the carpet up the back near the bathrooms and just had a little horizontal time. And my sweet friends Natalie and Karen, I think they were feeling a little protective of me, bless them. I know, I really appreciate that. And Natalie spotted me and told Karen, "Oh, Leonie's down by the toilets," and Karen sort of just zooms over just to check that I'm okay, and I was totally fine. And so she joined me, and then we ended up having a cuddle puddle on the ground, and people kept on just joining, and I was like, come spoon with us. And so I had a big spoon, I had a little spoon, had top spoon, and I just had so many beautiful humans all snuggled up together on the ground, and it was such a lovely way to spend the time, and just to regulate together like a bundle of puppies, really. And then the next morning I headed off home. And I'm all like, whoa, watch me go. Look at me. I'm just a traveller out in the wild, making things happen, doing the things. So, yeah, that was my big Sydney adventure. That's all the things I wanted to tell you. If you wanted to go on to my Instagram, you can find I don't know, what are they called? A story highlight or some shit like that. And you can see some of the pictures of my favourite moments from Sydney. But I feel really blessed for the adventure, and also so keen to do more. I was texting my husband the pictures as I went, and he said it was just so wonderful. It was like being away himself. So it was just like, I feel like I'm there. Like, what's going to happen next? It's like an instant slideshow. And then walking through Chinatown and just all the goodies. So just loved it, really, and looking forward to doing more adventures like that when the time has come, when my family can all go together, because our dog finally realizes, babe, you are so fucking old, you could probably leave the planet and we'll be very sad, but also you're very fucking old, you're 19 years old, have you not got the memo that doggies should die by now? But she prevails because we love her so much, but then also it's been so long. Alright, that's me. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I love you, bye.